The alien vessel known as the Ecliptica floated silently above Earth's atmosphere, its sleek silver surface reflecting the pale glow of the planet below. Inside, Kyle leaned over a holographic display, his sharp eyes scanning rows of data that shimmered in the air before him. His colleague Lyra stood nearby, her arms crossed as she watched him work. The two were part of a team tasked with studying Earth's weather patterns, but Kale had always been the more curious of the pair. While others saw chaos and unpredictability, Kale saw something else, something deliberate. "Kale," Lyra said, breaking the quiet hum of the ship. "You've been staring at those readings for hours. What are you looking for?" Kyle didn't look up. "I'm not sure yet, but there's something here. Something we're missing." Lyra sighed. She was used to Kale's relentless curiosity, but this time it felt different. He wasn't just chasing an idea. He seemed convinced that Earth's weather held secrets no one else could see. For weeks they had collected data on hurricanes, thunderstorms, and even gentle breezes. The goal was simple: understand why humans struggled so much to predict their own weather. But to Kale, the answers weren't adding up. "They call it natural," Kale muttered, tapping a finger against the glowing screen. "But nothing about this is random. Look at these storm paths." He pointed to a series of lines tracing the movements of recent hurricanes. "They move like they're following instructions." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Instructions? From what?" "The wind doesn't take orders." "That's what everyone assumes," Kale replied. "But assumptions aren't facts. These patterns, they repeat, they adjust. It's almost like—" He hesitated, searching for the right words. "Like someone or something is guiding them." Lyra shook her head. "Even if that were true, and I'm not saying it is, it doesn't explain why humans can't predict them. They have machines, satellites, all kinds of tools. If there's some kind of intelligence behind the weather, wouldn't they have noticed by now?" Kyle frowned. That was the question nagging at him. Humans were clever, resourceful. They'd built cities that scraped the sky and machines that traveled beyond their own world. Yet when it came to understanding the skies above their heads, they stumbled. Why? Down on Earth, far below the silent orbit of the Ecliptica, Ryan adjusted the settings on his weather station's radar. The small facility sat nestled in the foothills of Colorado, surrounded by towering pine trees and crisp mountain air. Beside him, Elena scribbled notes onto a clipboard, her brow furrowed in concentration. Together they had spent years trying to make sense of the unpredictable storms that swept through the region. "This one's weird," Ryan said, glancing at the monitor. A massive storm system was forming to the west, moving faster than expected. "It shouldn't be gaining speed like this. There's no front pushing it." Elena stepped closer, squinting at the screen. "Maybe it's thermal currents. We've seen that before." "No," Ryan said firmly. "This isn't thermals. Look at the pressure readings. They're dropping too quickly. And the cloud formations—" He tapped the screen again. "They're symmetrical, almost perfect." Elena tilted her head, studying the swirling mass of clouds. She had to admit, it did look strange. Most storms were messy, chaotic. This one looked almost intentional. Could it be some kind of glitch in the equipment? Ryan shook his head. "I checked everything yesterday. The instruments are fine." Before either of them could say more, a sudden burst of static crackled through the speakers. Both jumped back, startled. The noise faded after a moment, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. "What was that?" Elena asked, her voice tight. "I don't know," Ryan admitted. He replayed the recording, listening closely. Beneath the static, he thought he heard something, a faint pulse, rhythmic and steady. It reminded him of Morse code, though he couldn't make out any specific pattern. "Did you hear that?" Elena nodded slowly. "Yeah, but it's probably just interference, maybe from the storm itself." "Maybe," Ryan said, though he didn't sound convinced. He saved the recording and turned back to the monitor. Whatever it wasn't normal. And normal was what they were supposed to study. Days later, Ryan and Elena presented their findings at a conference in Chicago. The room buzzed with chatter as scientists from around the world gathered to share their latest research. When it was their turn, Ryan clicked through slides showing graphs, charts, and images of the mysterious storm. He explained the unusual pressure drops, the symmetrical cloud formations, and the strange static they'd recorded. "And then there's this," he said, playing the audio clip for the audience. The rhythmic pulses echoed through the room, drawing murmurs of confusion and disbelief. One scientist in the front row raised his hand. "Are you suggesting that the storm was transmitting some kind of signal?" Ryan hesitated. "We're not sure what it means, but it's definitely not random." Another voice chimed in. "Could it be human interference? A satellite or drone passing overhead?" "We considered that," Elena interjected, "but there's no record of anything being in the area at the time." A journalist named Claire sat near the back, scribbling notes furiously. She had been assigned to cover the conference, expecting dry lectures and uninspired presentations. But Ryan and Elena's talk caught her attention. There was something compelling about their discovery, something unsettling. As the session ended, she approached them, notebook in hand. "You really think there's something unnatural about this storm?" she asked, her tone skeptical but curious. Ryan shrugged. "We're not saying it's unnatural, just unusual. We've never seen anything like it before." Claire smiled faintly. "Unusual stories sell papers. Mind if I write about it?" Elena glanced at Ryan, unsure how to respond. Before she could answer, Claire added, "Don't worry, I'll keep your names out of it. For now." Back aboard the Ecliptica, Cale continued his analysis, poring over every detail of the storm Ryan and Elena had documented. When he compared their data to the patterns he'd observed earlier, his suspicions deepened. The storm wasn't just unusual. It fit perfectly into the larger puzzle he'd been piecing together. Whoever or whatever was influencing Earth's weather, it was doing so with precision and purpose. Kyle knew he needed more evidence, and if that meant going to Earth himself, so be it. Kyle stood in the dimly lit chamber of the Ecliptica, staring at the holographic map of Earth that hovered before him. His mind raced with possibilities, each thought more unsettling than the last. The storm Ryan and Elena had documented wasn't an isolated event. It was part of a larger pattern, one that stretched across continents and decades. Cale couldn't shake the feeling that Earth's weather wasn't just chaotic or random. It was deliberate, controlled. Lyra entered the room, her footsteps soft but audible against the metallic floor. She paused when she saw Cale's expression. "You're still obsessing over this, aren't you?" "It's not obsession," Cale replied without turning around. "It's curiosity. And maybe responsibility." "Responsibility?" Lyra frowned. "What do you mean?" "If there's something guiding Earth's weather, and I think there is, then we need to understand it. Not just for our sake, but for theirs." He gestured toward the hologram of Earth. "Humans are blind to what's happening right above their heads. They call it natural. But it's not. If we leave them in the dark, they could destroy themselves. Or worse, whatever's controlling their weather." Lyra crossed her arms. "Even if you're right, Kyle, you can't just go down there. You know the rules, no interference." Kyle turned to face her, his eyes sharp and determined. "Rules are meant to protect us, not tie us down. What's the point of studying other worlds if we refuse to act when we see danger?" Lyra opened her mouth to argue but stopped herself. She knew Cale well enough to recognize the stubborn set of his jaw. Once he made up his mind, nothing could change it. "Fine," she said finally. "But don't expect me to cover for you, if you get caught." Cale gave her a small smile. "I wouldn't ask you to." The next day, Cale prepared for his journey to Earth. Using advanced holographic technology, he disguised himself as a human, a tall man with short brown hair, and plain clothes. He memorized basic phrases and mannerisms, ensuring he wouldn't draw suspicion. When he stepped off the transport pod near Denver, Colorado, the crisp mountain air hit him like a shock. It was colder than he expected, but refreshing. Cale's First stop was a weather observatory nestled deep in the forest. He had chosen this location because it was close to where Ryan and Elena worked. If anyone could help him make sense of the strange patterns in Earth's atmosphere, it would be them. As he approached the building, he noticed a sign on the door. Closed for maintenance. Undeterred, Kale slipped inside, careful to avoid the security cameras. Inside, the observatory was quiet, filled with rows of monitors and blinking lights. Kale moved quickly, searching for anything that might lead him to Ryan or Elena. He found a desk cluttered with papers and notebooks, many of which contained sketches of storm clouds and handwritten notes. One page caught his attention. It detailed the same storm system he had studied aboard the Ecliptica. Before Kale could examine it further, he heard voices coming from another room. He ducked behind a stack of equipment just as Ryan and Elena walked in. They were deep in conversation, their expressions tense. "I don't trust that journalist," Ryan said, shaking his head. "She's going to twist everything we said." "She's just doing her job," Elena replied. "Besides, it's not like we have much choice. If we want people to take this seriously, we need exposure." Ryan sighed. "I know, but what if they laugh at us? Or worse, what if they think we're crazy?" Elena placed a hand on his shoulder. "We've seen the data. We know what we're dealing with. That has to count for something." Kale listened intently, intrigued by their exchange. These humans weren't just curious, they were passionate. They cared about understanding their world even if it meant risking ridicule. Slowly he emerged from his hiding spot, hoping to introduce himself without alarming them. "Excuse me," he said, his voice calm and steady. "I couldn't help overhearing your conversation. You seem to share my interest in unusual weather patterns." Ryan and Elena spun around, startled. For a moment they simply stared at him, unsure how to react. Finally, Ryan spoke. "Who are you? And how did you get in here?" "My name is Kale," he replied, sticking to the alias he had prepared. "I'm a researcher. I specialize in atmospheric phenomena, and I've been following your work. Your findings about the storm, are they typical of what you've observed in the past?" Ryan narrowed his eyes. "That depends. Why are you asking?" Kyle hesitated. He needed to tread carefully. "Let's just say I have reason to believe Earth's weather isn't entirely natural. There may be forces at play that science hasn't fully explained yet." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Forces? Like what?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out," Kyle admitted. "But I think you two might hold the key." Ryan exchanged a glance with Elena. Something about Kale seemed off. His appearance, his demeanor, the way he spoke with such certainty about things no one else understood. Yet there was also something compelling about him, something that made Ryan reluctant to dismiss him outright. "Okay," Ryan said slowly. "Let's say we believe you. What exactly do you want from us?" Kale smiled faintly. "Your expertise, your data, and perhaps a little trust." Over the next few hours, Ryan and Elena shared their research with Kale, showing him charts, recordings, and photographs of strange weather events. Kale listened intently, asking questions that revealed a level of knowledge far beyond what any human meteorologist possessed. At one point, he pointed to a series of pressure readings and asked, "Have you considered the possibility that these fluctuations are caused by external interference?" "External interference," Elena repeated. "From where?" "That's what I'm trying to determine," Kale said evasively. "But if I'm right, it could explain why your models fail so often." As the evening wore on, a sudden storm rolled in, bringing with it flashes of lightning and booming thunder. The power flickered briefly, causing the equipment in the observatory to emit a high-pitched whine. Kale instinctively reached for his holographic emitter, forgetting for a moment that it was hidden beneath his shirt. In the chaos, the device malfunctioned, projecting a faint shimmer around his body. Ryan and Elena froze, their eyes wide with disbelief. What are you?" Ryan stammered. Kale cursed under his breath. His cover was blown. He had no choice but to reveal the truth, or at least part of it. "I'm not human," he admitted, "but I'm not here to harm you. I'm here to learn, to help." Elena took a step back, her heart pounding. "Help with what?" Are you saying Earth's weather is being controlled by aliens? Not necessarily aliens, Kyle corrected. But yes, there is intelligence behind it. Intelligence that humanity hasn't yet recognized. Ryan ran a hand through his hair, struggling to process what he was hearing. This is insane. Completely insane. Maybe, Kale conceded. But does it sound any crazier than the idea that Earth's weather is completely random? Ryan didn't answer. Instead, he turned to Elena, who looked equally stunned. After a long pause, she spoke. If what you're saying is true, then we need to know more. Not just for our sake, but for everyone's. Kale nodded, relief washing over him. Then we'll work together, but we must be careful. If others find out about this, it could put all of us in danger. As the storm raged outside, the three of them huddled around the monitors, determined to uncover the secrets hidden within Earth's skies. Whatever they discovered, they knew it would change everything, not just for humanity, but for the entire planet. The storm outside showed no signs of letting up, but inside the observatory, Ryan, Elena, and Kale worked tirelessly. The monitors glowed with streams of data, each screen displaying a different aspect of the weather system raging above them. Kale moved between the equipment with an ease that hinted at his advanced knowledge, while Ryan and Elena exchanged nervous glances. They still struggled to fully trust Kale, but his explanations, and the glimpse of his true form, had left them with little choice. Let's focus on the signals, Kyle suggested, pointing to the faint pulses they had recorded during the earlier storm. These aren't random bursts of static. They're structured, patterned. Elena adjusted the audio settings, replaying the clip for what felt like the 100th time. Each pulse was sharp and deliberate, like a heartbeat. If it's a message, how do we decode it? She asked. Kale leaned closer, his holographic disguise flickering slightly as he concentrated. We start by looking for repetition, patterns within patterns. If this is communication, it will follow rules we can identify. Ryan grabbed a notebook and began jotting down ideas. What if it's not meant for us? What if these signals are talking to something else? It's possible, Kyle admitted. But even so, understanding the language might give us clues about who or what is behind it. For hours they analyzed the data, breaking down the pulses into segments and comparing them to known communication methods. At first nothing made sense. The patterns were too complex, too alien. But then Elena noticed something. A sequence that repeated every few seconds. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Look at this, she said, pointing to the screen. This part keeps coming back. Could it be some kind of identifier? Kale examined the sequence carefully. It could be. Or it could be a key, a way to unlock the rest of the message. As they worked, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. He glanced toward the windows where lightning illuminated the dark sky. Shadows danced across the glass, distorted by the rain. Do you think whoever sent these signals knows we're trying to decode them? Kyle paused, considering the question. I don't know, but if they do, they haven't stopped us yet. Meanwhile, in Chicago, Claire sat at her desk, staring at the article she had written about Ryan and Elena's discovery. Her editor had been skeptical, dismissing the story as too speculative for their audience. But Claire couldn't let it go. There was something about the storm, something about the strange pulses Ryan had described, that gnawed at her instincts. She opened her laptop and began digging deeper. A quick search revealed dozens of similar reports from around the world, unusual weather events accompanied by strange phenomena. In Brazil, villagers claimed to have seen lights in the clouds during a freak hailstorm. In Japan, fishermen reported hearing eerie sounds before a typhoon struck. Even in remote parts of Africa, stories circulated about storms that seemed to move with purpose. Claire's heart raced as she connected the dots. These weren't isolated incidents. They were pieces of a larger puzzle. She decided to reach out to Ryan and Elena directly, hoping to get more details. When she called the observatory, however, no one answered. Frustrated, she left a voicemail and resolved to visit them in person. Back at the observatory, Kale, Ryan, and Elena finally broke through. By isolating the repeating sequence and mapping its frequency changes, they uncovered a hidden layer of information embedded within the signal. It wasn't a traditional language. It was mathematical, a series of equations that described planetary movements, atmospheric conditions, and energy transfers. This is incredible, Elena whispered, her eyes wide with awe. It's like a blueprint, a guide for maintaining balance. Kyle nodded. Exactly. This isn't just communication, it's instruction. Someone or something is using Earth's weather to regulate the planet's systems. Ryan frowned. But why would anyone go to such lengths? Why not just build machines or use technology? Maybe they did, Cale replied. Or maybe Earth itself is the machine. Think about it. What better way to manage a planet than through its own natural processes? As the implications sank in, Elena voiced the question none of them wanted to ask. If Earth's weather is being controlled, does that mean humanity has been interfering without realizing it? Kyle hesitated before answering. Yes, and if my people's observations are correct, your interference has caused significant damage. That's why I came here, to find out if humans are capable of understanding their role in this system. Before they could discuss it further, the power flickered again, plunging the room into darkness. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of distant thunder. Then a voice crackled over the radio. Is anyone there? This is Claire Dawson. I'm outside. Ryan recognized the name immediately. That's the journalist who wrote about us. She must have followed us here, Elena said, her tone uneasy. Cale stepped back, his disguise flickering once more. You should handle this. I'll stay out of sight. Ryan nodded and grabbed a flashlight before heading to the door. When EI sent, he opened it. Claire stood soaked and shivering, clutching a notepad and recorder. Sorry to barge in like this, she said, brushing rainwater from her face. But I need answers. Your presentation at the conference, it wasn't just a theory, was it? Ryan hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. Come in. We'll explain everything. Inside, Elena greeted Claire cautiously while Cale remained hidden behind a partition. As Ryan and Elena recounted their findings, Claire listened intently, her pen flying across the page. When they mentioned the decoded signal, her eyes lit up with excitement. This is huge, she said. If you're right, it changes everything we know about Earth's climate, about our place in the universe. It's not just about us, Elena added. It's about the planet, about keeping it alive. Claire nodded, her expression serious. Then we need to tell the world. People deserve to know. No, Cale interjected, stepping forward. His hologram flickered briefly, revealing glimpses of his true form. Claire gasped, dropping her notepad. What? What are you? She stammered. I'm not human, Kyle admitted. But I'm here to help, to protect Earth and humanity, if you're willing to listen. Claire stared at him, her mind racing. After a long silence, she spoke. If you're telling the truth, then we have to act. But how do we convince others without causing panic? Cale looked at Ryan and Elena, then back at Claire. We start small. Build trust. Share what we've learned, but carefully. The truth is powerful, but it can also be dangerous. As the storm outside began to subside, the four of them gathered around the monitors, united by a shared purpose. They knew the road ahead would be difficult, fraught with challenges and risks. But they also knew one thing for certain. Earth's weather wasn't just a force of nature. It was a message, one they were determined to understand. The next morning, the observatory was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the occasional rustle of papers. Kyle, Ryan, Elena, and Claire sat around a cluttered table, their faces pale from lack of sleep but alive with determination. The decoded signal had revealed more than they expected, a complex system of instructions embedded within Earth's weather patterns. It wasn't just about balance, it was about survival. Every storm, every breeze, every shift in temperature seemed to serve a purpose, maintaining the delicate equilibrium that kept the planet alive. This changes everything, Claire said, breaking the silence. She tapped her pen against the notebook in front of her, her mind racing. If humanity has been disrupting this system without realizing it, then we're not just damaging the environment, we're tampering with something far bigger. Ryan nodded slowly. It explains why our climate models fail so often. We've been treating Earth's weather as random when it's anything but. Elena leaned forward, her voice steady but edged with urgency. So what do we do now? How do we fix what we've broken? Cale looked at each of them, his expression serious. First, you need to understand your role in this system. Humans are part of it whether you realize it or not. Your actions, your pollution, your deforestation, your reliance on fossil fuels are throwing the entire process off balance. Claire frowned. But how did we miss this? How could something so massive stay hidden for so long? It wasn't hidden, Kyle replied. You simply weren't looking. Your scientists saw anomalies but dismissed them as errors or chaos. My people noticed centuries ago, but we chose not to interfere. We assumed you weren't ready to handle the truth. Well, we're ready now, Ryan said firmly. Or at least we have to be. If we don't act, the consequences could be catastrophic. Over the next few days, the group worked tirelessly to piece together a plan. They knew they couldn't tackle the problem alone. They needed help, from governments, from scientists, from anyone willing to listen. But convincing others wouldn't be easy. The idea that Earth's weather was part of a controlled system sounded too fantastical, even for those who studied it professionally. Claire took the lead in crafting a message that would appeal to both experts and the general public. She wrote an article detailing their findings, careful to present the information in a way that was compelling but not alarmist. She included quotes from Ryan and Elena, emphasizing their credentials as meteorologists, and added context about the strange signals embedded in storms. She avoided mentioning Cale's true identity, instead framing him as a mysterious researcher with unparalleled expertise. When the article went live, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Comments flooded in, ranging from skepticism to outright disbelief. Some accused Claire of fabricating the story for attention, while others praised her for shedding light on a mystery that had baffled scientists for years. A few readers claimed to have witnessed similar phenomena themselves, sharing stories of unexplained lights in the sky or eerie sounds during storms. Among the skeptics were government officials, who dismissed the claims as baseless speculation. However, a handful of scientists reached out, intrigued by the data Claire had included in her article. One of them, a climatologist named Dr. Patel, agreed to meet with Ryan and Elena to discuss their findings further. We need proof, Dr. Patel said during their video call. Something concrete that can't be explained away as coincidence. Ryan nodded. We have the decoded signal. It's mathematical, precise. You won't find anything like it in natural weather patterns. Dr. Patel hesitated. If this is real, it's groundbreaking, but if it's not, well, you'd be risking your careers. We know the risks, Elena said, but we also know the stakes. If we're right, ignoring this could cost us the planet. After some deliberation, Dr. Patel agreed to review their data and collaborate on further research. With his support, Ryan and Elena felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps they weren't as alone as they thought. While Ryan and Elena focused on building alliances, Kyle turned his attention to the Ecliptica. He knew his superiors wouldn't approve of his involvement with humans, but he believed they deserved to hear the truth. Using a secure channel, he transmitted a report detailing everything he had learned since arriving on Earth. He argued that humanity's growing awareness of the weather system presented an opportunity to guide them toward restoration, rather than destruction. To his surprise, the response came quickly. His commander, a stern alien named Varek, appeared on the screen, his expression unreadable. You've overstepped your bounds, Cale, Varek said, his tone cold. Humans are unpredictable. They may not be capable of understanding what you're trying to show them. They're more capable than you think, Kyle countered. They've already started piecing things together. If we don't step in now, they'll continue down the same destructive path. Varek paused, considering Cale's words. Finally, he sighed. Very well. Present your case to the council. But know this. If they decide against intervention, you will return to the ship immediately. No exceptions. Kale nodded. Understood. Back on Earth, tensions were rising. Governments began scrambling to respond to Claire's article, some issuing statements to calm public fears, while others launched investigations into the claims. Conspiracy theories spread like wildfire, fueled by social media and sensational headlines. Amid the chaos, Ryan, Elena, and Claire struggled to maintain control of the narrative. It's getting out of hand, Elena said one evening, scrolling through news alerts on her phone. People are panicking. They think aliens are controlling the weather. Let them panic, Ryan replied. At least they're paying attention. Maybe now they'll start asking the right questions. Kale entered the room, his holographic disguise flickering slightly. My people will convene soon. If I can convince them to intervene, we might have a chance to restore balance. And if you can't? Claire asked. Then it's up to you, Kyle said. All of you. Humanity created this problem. It's your responsibility to fix it. As the days passed, the group prepared for what lay ahead. They knew the road would be difficult, fraught with resistance and doubt, but they also knew they had no choice. Earth's weather wasn't just a force of nature, it was a lifeline, and if they failed to protect it, the consequences would ripple across generations. One night, as the group gathered around the monitors once more, Kyle spoke softly. No matter what happens, remember this. Earth is alive, it breathes, it speaks, it listens. If you learn to hear its voice, you might still save it. The others nodded, their resolve strengthened by his words. Outside, the wind picked up, carrying with it the faint hum of thunder. Somewhere in the distance, a storm was forming, a reminder of the power and mystery they were fighting to understand. The council chamber aboard the Ecliptica was a vast circular room bathed in soft blue light. Kyle stood at its center, his holographic disguise deactivated to reveal his true form, a tall, slender figure with smooth silver skin and large, luminous eyes. Around him, the council members hovered silently in their floating seats, their expressions unreadable. The air was heavy with anticipation as Kale began his presentation. Humans are not what you believe them to be, Kale said, his own voice steady despite the weight of the moment. They may lack the wisdom of older civilizations, but they possess something rare, curiosity, a desire to learn, to grow. If we guide them, they can become stewards of their planet rather than destroyers. One of the council members, an elder, named Zinra, leaned forward. Her voice was calm but firm. You speak of trust, Kale, but trust must be earned. Humans have proven time and again that they prioritize short-term gains over long-term survival. Why should we risk exposing ourselves for beings who may never change? Kale hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Because they are changing. Even now, there are humans working to understand their role in Earth systems. They've uncovered parts of the truth on their own. With our help, they can go further. Zinra exchanged glances with the others before speaking again. And if they reject your guidance, if they turn against us, they won't, Kale replied. Not all of them, at least. There will always be those who resist, who fear what they don't understand. But fear is not a reason to abandon hope. The council fell silent, deliberating in whispers too faint for Kale to hear. After what felt like an eternity, Varric spoke. Your argument has merit, Kale, but it carries great risk. We will allow limited intervention, but only under strict conditions. You must remain discreet, and you must ensure that humanity takes responsibility for its actions. Kale bowed his head. Thank you. I won't fail. Back on Earth, Ryan, Elena, and Claire worked tirelessly to spread awareness about the weather system. Armed with Kyle's insights and Dr. Patel's growing support, they organized conferences, published papers, and gave interviews to anyone willing to listen. Slowly but surely, their message began to take root. Scientists started revisiting old data, searching for patterns they had once dismissed. Environmentalists embraced the idea of Earth as a living, interconnected system, using it to rally support for conservation efforts. But not everyone was convinced. Governments remained divided, some dismissing the claims as pseudoscience while others launched covert investigations into alien involvement. Corporations fought back, arguing that drastic changes to industry would cripple economies. Amid the chaos, protests erupted worldwide, with people demanding answers and action. Through it all, Cale stayed by Ryan and Elena's side, offering guidance without revealing his true nature. He helped them refine their models, showing how human activity disrupted the delicate balance maintained by Earth's weather. Together, they developed strategies to reduce harm, planting trees to restore oxygen cycles, reducing emissions to clear the skies, and creating networks of protected zones where nature could heal itself. Claire played a crucial role in shaping public opinion. Her articles painted a picture of hope rather than doom, emphasizing humanity's potential to adapt and thrive. She interviewed experts, shared stories of communities coming together to protect their environments, and highlighted small victories that proved change was possible. Her work inspired millions, turning skepticism into determination. Months passed and the effects of their efforts began to show. Storms grew less violent, their paths more predictable. Temperatures stabilized in regions that had long suffered from extremes. Animals returned to habitats thought lost forever, and rivers ran cleaner than they had in decades. It wasn't perfect, there were setbacks and challenges, but progress was undeniable. One evening, Ryan, Elena, and Claire gathered at the observatory to celebrate their achievements. The sky above was clear, dotted with stars that seemed brighter than before. Cale joined them, his holographic disguise reactivated to avoid drawing attention. "You've done well," Kyle said, his tone warm with pride. "Earth is healing because of you." Ryan shook his head. "We couldn't have done it without you. Without your people." Elena smiled. "Maybe this is just the beginning. Maybe we can learn to live in harmony, not just with each other, but with the planet itself." Claire nodded. "And maybe one day we'll be ready to meet the rest of the universe." Kyle looked at them, his heart swelling with admiration. For the first time, he truly believed humanity might survive. Not just as survivors, but as guardians. "Perhaps," he said softly. "But for now, focus on what's in front of you. The road ahead is still long." As the night wore on, the group sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars twinkle above. Somewhere in the distance, a gentle breeze rustled the trees, carrying with it the promise of renewal. Earth's weather whispered its approval, a quiet reminder that life was resilient, adaptable, and full of wonder. When dawn broke, Cale prepared to leave. His mission was complete, for now. As he stepped outside, he glanced back at Ryan, Elena, and Claire, their faces glowing with determination. They weren't just scientists or journalists anymore. They were pioneers, leading humanity toward a brighter future. Cale activated his transport device, its soft hum blending with the morning birdsong. In moments, he was gone, returning to the ecliptica and the stars beyond. But his legacy remained, etched into the hearts and minds of those who dared to dream of a better world. Far above, the alien vessel drifted silently through space, its crew reflecting on the lessons learned from Earth. Perhaps, they thought, the universe held more wonders and more possibilities than they had ever imagined, and perhaps one day, humanity would join them among the stars, ready to share its story with the cosmos.